Yes.
Hello? So Zach, we'll just stay on, right?
I'm sorry? So, yeah, so I started the broadcast. We're just going to wait for, there's a few people piling in, so John will make a quick announcement.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, thanks all of those who've joined on time. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes for some more to join, and I'll get going. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining, and welcome to Account-Based Marketing, the Outbound Blueprint. My name is Jonathan Hanman. I'm the Director of Sales at demandDrive. Presenting today we have Lindsay Fry, President and Co-Founder at demandDrive, and Shakuntel Sharma, CMO of Info Analytica. We appreciate you taking the time over the next 30 minutes as we lay out the strategy, planning, and execution behind an effective account-based outbound lead generation program. We'll answer any questions at the end of the webinar. So we have found that our clients are focusing less on lead volume nowadays and concentrating more on getting in front of the right people, delivering the right message to be successful with an ideal customer profile. And we have a program here that we call Account-Based Outbound. The goal of this webinar is to provide you with an account-centric framework that helps you build a healthy sales funnel, avoid the most common mistakes of account-based approach through sales, and ultimately to drive revenue. Those speaking today have over 25 years of combined lead generation and tech marketing experience. Shakuntel, who has more than 15 years of experience in product and service marketing roles for technology and consulting firms. He has fulfilled vital marketing roles in companies such as Texas Instruments, GAO Research, Unwired Connect. And from demandDrive, we have Lindsay, a demand and lead generation expert whose processes have been implemented by 100+ business development and inside sales teams in the tech B2B space. Many of those who've joined today may already have some sort of account-based marketing strategy in place. Generally speaking, this will likely be specific to inbound marketing tactics like content marketing, retargeting, geo-targeting, etc. Some of you may also have already tried to apply this approach to the sales side, applying a teleprospecting and lead gen strategy that targets a defined number of key accounts. So we have kept that in mind, that you may all have a wide range of account-based marketing knowledge and current application, but whether you are starting an account-based approach from scratch or you already have a strategy in place, we will be sharing best practices and methodologies that will help everyone at all stages. So with that said, I will turn it over to Shakuntel. The strategy and planning of an account-based approach is crucial, yet a very complex process. So Shakuntel will introduce Info Analytica's best practices, which they implement for some of the tech industry's leading vendors. So Shakuntel, over to you.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we support account-based marketing strategies, particularly for technology companies. Many technology companies that we work for have recently moved or are currently moving toward an account-based approach to lead generation. as well as direct marketing, database marketing. There's a big shift in terms of identifying accounts based on large opportunities, high revenue clients, longer-term contracting. So because of all this, through working with our customers, we have seen that to effectively perform account-based marketing, the focus generally remains on competitors for the customer's product or solution and how to surpass what they offer to an existing customer or potential customer. Based on this understanding, Infoanalytica has brought together a mix of market research and demand generation methods and strategies coupled with extensive competitor intelligence. That's a thread that runs through all of the market research and demand generation work that we do. And this brings value to our customers in terms of heightened returns from account-based marketing. So before we tell you more about how we implement that, here's a little bit of information about who we are. Infoanalytica is a specialty research firm. And we are exclusively focused in two areas, market research and demand generation. Everything we do for our clients is with the objective of improving top-line growth through critical sales and marketing insights and information. And 90% of our clients are based in North America. Excuse me, there's a problem with our laptop here. Just a second. Right. Sorry about this, John. Just give me a moment. Right. So as I mentioned, everything we do for our clients is the objective of improving top-line growth through critical sales and marketing insights and information. 90% of our clients are based in North America, and I would say about 70 to 80% of those are from the Bay Area. Most are technology companies, and we'll quickly transition into some of the activities we undertake for technology customers who want to pursue account-based marketing. So as you can see here, we've divided most of our account-based research work as well as demand generation into two major blocks. And as you can see, the first phase involves assessing the right market strategy, involving a mix of market research activities, which are required to understand the overall size of the market, market segmentation, and additional research areas. And if you look toward the block on the right, which is high-tech research, that's a special aspect we cover to analyze the features for a customer's technology product and the market perceptions that surround it from a competitive standpoint, from a customer standpoint, technical support, interoperability, we cover it all. This is generally performed through extensive primary research and sentiment analysis and provides the product features and perception analysis into the strengths of the product, weaknesses versus competitors, opportunities, and oftentimes threats from the external environment. Now, the second phase below that involves specific tasks for demand generation, which include the build out of prospect lists, appending valuable data into these lists, which could range from anything from contact information, company revenues or IT budgets, readiness to purchase the right technology from our customer, and the risks that come in from a competitive angle. So there are also various other standpoints that are customer specific and change as per the technology we implement and we're looking at. So we also undertake extensive lead qualification during this phase and eventual competitor data analysis to reveal strengths and weaknesses. We'll now take a look at how these approaches are broken down further and how they cascade into actual sales and marketing activity for the customer company. In this case, the customer under study is a technology company in the global payment space. As you can see under the input section on the left, the first objective here is to move beyond the total market size and assess the total available or addressable market as part of what we call market landscape analysis. The TAM, or the total addressable market, is then broken down by verticals, geography, and the sizing within those two. This helps in building the right definition and the foundation in terms of high growth verticals, and in this case also the industry and product categories to go after. We additionally perform customer and market segmentation, an in-depth competitive intelligence study, and assessment of the growth or target areas and the best approach for the customer's outreach programs. As you can see, the output criteria for each of these activities includes findings into high growth areas and verticals, top customer segments, competitor customer lists, and competition battle cards for sales, key target areas, and also finally accurate contact information for key decision makers. We'll now take a look at how some of this research was implemented. So for the same customer, the technology for payments had very specific aspects associated with the kind of, in terms of seasonal trends, growth trends, competitor density. So what we did was we had to segment the market based on industry verticals, product categories, transaction volumes, and seasonal trends, which led to clear insight into the key growth areas for the business. After concluding with the market analysis, we started identifying prospective customers based on the market research that we had performed. The three areas the customer was interested in were how to gain new customers, which prospects could be targeted for switcher campaigns, and finally, deeper insight into how to improve revenues from existing customers based on areas such as cross-sell or upsell opportunities, their presence in growth verticals, transaction volumes, and other additional parameters that the customer had identified. This is one of the phases where we normally invest a lot of time in primary research in interviewing the right customer prospects or potential customers. And a large part of this process involves developing highly accurate decision-maker contact lists for sales and marketing outreach programs. Further, as mentioned earlier, we apply competitive analysis and competitive intelligence right through these processes, often in parallel while developing the market research and the demand generation strategies. The main areas, as you can see over here, that we study are the competitors' customers, their marketing strategies, sales strategies and tactics, price structure for competitor products, a detailed product features matrix, and finally brand perception and pain points. Based on this analysis, we're able to pinpoint tactics for prospects for switcher campaigns. So essentially, any customer that is any of our customers, potential customers that is working with competition, what we try to build out for them is a clear set of tactics and strategies to switch them over to their own technology. And further, at the end of this exercise, we normally also develop sales battle cards that bring out competitor weaknesses versus our customer strengths. And this equips sales teams with the relevant information required to improve the likelihood of switching over a prospect. So in conclusion, to illustrate how these processes lead to critical sales and marketing intelligence for account-based marketing, we've included one of the sales battle cards we developed for another technology company that offers a SaaS product that addresses enterprise web application security. The first section where you can see web application security DAS project. DAS is basically dynamic application security testing, which lets you test your web application during runtime. So the first section shows the key product capabilities of our customer solution versus one of their primary competitors. The overall study included approximately 5 key competitors and several indirect competitors. The block marked the customer value proposition below that brings out the USPs of the customer's product, which were developed based on both market research as well as user-generated sentiment for the product versus competition. This covered key areas such as product features, pricing, customer support, ease of use, implementation characteristics, and a host of other areas. We also researched the competitors' pricing based on their licensing policies in terms of number of users, volume licensing, etc. Now, I'm going to move into the second section of the battle card where we have additional tactics laid out. This serves as a ready reference of tactics for customer sales team members versus the competing product. This data set, as you can see in the questions section, provides a solution to interview prospects and address pain areas that competitors did not have a ready solution to. So as you can see, cascading from that, you also have the product differentiation section where we pinpoint where our customer software scores better than the primary competitor in 5 areas based on the product, including ease of deployment, and in 3 areas based on company demographics. So this is how our research cascades into providing the right kind of arsenal for salespeople to go out, to utilize in order to enable not only heightened customer interest, but switcher campaigns, and provides a great way to interview customers for technology readiness. So this concludes the ABM strategy section. Thank you for your time, and back to John.
All right. Well, thanks very much for that, Shakuntel. So now, Lindsay, you have implemented your outbound lead generation processes in over 100 companies, covering enterprise software vendors from growth stage startups all the way to publicly traded companies. After these teams have done what Shakuntel has just discussed, so researching, planning, data preparation, battle cards and such, what are some of the most important keys to driving revenue through an outbound approach, specifically within an account-based model?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, John. As I see it, there are 3 key factors to success when executing an account-based outbound program. The first and really the most important key is really in implementing and committing to some sort of process prospecting methodology. So this is really a way of taking a data-driven, defined, and repeatable approach to lead generation. So the processes here at demandDrive have seen tremendous results for our client base. In fact, our methodology has increased the conversion rate of prospect to sales qualified leads by about 37%. And there's 3 components to this process. Number 1 is really what we call a call plan, so committing to some sort of calling methodology and call plan. We've developed a process which allows for the right amount of accounts to be called each day by your sales development team, while also doing the right work on each one. So I've seen many lead gen teams whose focus is on hitting maybe a daily call quota, and it really doesn't allow them to think about their message or what's exactly going to engage a specific prospect that they're calling. So my suggestion is to have your lead development rep call about 25 to 30 unique accounts each day. That's the right number there, and they should be reaching out to at least 2 to 3 contacts per account. It's also important to incorporate both voicemails and emails in this process and customize each email with a relevant piece of content. So industry research states that it takes about 8 to 12 touches before qualifying a prospect in or out. So definitely make sure your team isn't giving up after their second or even third attempt. The second component is really around what we call account mapping. And account mapping is a multi-threaded approach to each account in order to identify your champion and decision makers and really gather all that information necessary to qualify an account in or out. So we find that a little over 50% of all sales qualified leads come from contacts that our reps have added. And a sizable chunk of those are results of the account mapping process. So this really aligns with account-based marketing's core idea of collective decision making. Oftentimes I'll see a sales team approach target accounts with too narrow a scope, and they'll continue to prospect only 1 or 2 contacts within any given account. And this can lead the sales rep to make assumptions as to how worthwhile the account is to call and really not do the right work on it and kind of just give up. The third piece is really in creating a recurring strategy development process. And this is really one of the more forgotten tasks within a prospecting strategy. So important to periodically take a high-level look at your data, competition, and product market fit. Whether you do this yourself from time to time or work with someone like InfoAnalytica, really successful sales teams definitely don't let these reviews fall off the schedule. So the second factor to success when executing an account-based outbound program is something called two-way nurturing. And this is a concept that we developed here at demandDrive. At first, we noticed this practice really as a natural byproduct of effective outbound lead gen, but we've since reworked it into more of a repeatable strategy that increases conversion for nurtured leads, even those managed by an automated lead nurturing system. So rather than relying solely on traditional account-based marketing techniques that really are speaking at the prospect, two-way nurturing develops a relationship outside of any automated platform, email marketing platform, in order to stay up to date on the account, its market, and your competitive landscape. So while our method here at demandDrive is a bit more detailed, the best way to develop a framework for two-way nurturing is to really empower your sales development reps to own their own pipeline. So for instance, nurtured leads should certainly be regularly touched outside of the marketing emails that those prospects are getting through a defined process that your reps are responsible to execute. So when made accountable for this process, reps, especially ours here at demandDrive, that are trained in our methodology, can do some pretty amazing things. Over the past 12 months, we've seen our reps increase their marketing lead to SQL conversion rates by about 7% when performing two-way nurturing in tandem with that traditional automated lead nurturing. In addition to improving conversion rates, the detailed and up-to-date information that our reps are able to aggregate provides impactful information for their respective marketing teams. So content can then be improved and inbound channels become that much more effective. So the investment in outbound is then producing return in so many other areas other than marketing channels and units of the sales process that are all really aimed at driving revenue. So the final factor to success when executing these account-based outbound programs is really making sure that your sales development reps are responsible for certainly the top of the funnel, but really even the middle of the sales funnel. One of the most common mistakes made by teams who implement account-based models is that they'll use their quota-carrying reps as lead gen resources in these cases. So because an account-based approach relies on highly targeted accounts, teams will often forego using their sales development unit and instead use these highly paid quota-carrying reps that were hired to close business instead to cold call, and this certainly creates a poor resource allocation scenario. So there are a few reasons even beyond the salary ROI that make a sales development rep much more effective at lead generation versus those quota-carrying reps. Quota-carrying reps can be incentivized by closed business and not by the leads that they're generating. So we'll work with many clients, and we continually speak with teams who have struggled with top-of-the-funnel health because of just this. Certainly process prospecting, so which we talked about earlier. This is often cast aside, and this methodology isn't being fully realized by those quota-carrying reps. And then third, really the bias and preconceived notions about the market, industry, specific accounts, or titles. This certainly is something that we see more often with a rep in a closing role versus a sales development team. So these are a few things to think about as you are implementing an account-based outbound marketing program, and we'll certainly be following up with this recording and slide deck as well. But I will, I guess, ask John if there's any questions at all that have come in.
Yeah. So there have been a couple of questions as we've been going. There are a couple here really on the data side, pre-sort of sales team data mining, which I'll give to Shakuntal. So one of them is we struggle with list quality, specifically email address accuracy, which is critical to be successful in key accounts. So how do you ensure that you provide accurate data? That's you, Shakuntal.
Sure. Thanks, John. So that's a very interesting question, John. In fact, we've seen that across the industry, this is a problem that a lot of people struggle with. And I think the reasons for this are that List quality can be impacted by a lot of different criteria. For instance, people move from organization to organization. Email addresses change. Sometimes you don't even have the right person contact in terms of who you need to really reach out to. So what we do is we perform extensive research, and we also have a 6 million plus contact database for North America that we refresh continually. And what we do is we look at the contact email in the public domain, and if we can identify the right email patterns. Further, once we've identified the email pattern, we test and verify this email address through, for example, not just email address, but if it's easier to verify when it's just a phone, or I mean that can be handled through primary research. But for email, we follow a multi-step process to verify the validity of each email, and this includes sending out spam compliant emails from independent web servers to ensure deliverability. So based on that, we're able to offer very accurate emails with a low error rate. The second thing is we rely heavily on data sets that are user-generated, where generally, like if you look at a LinkedIn profile, for instance, everybody's going to update their own LinkedIn profile on a periodic basis, and that serves as a very good reference point to check whether the contact is actually available at the company or not. Additionally, much of our data is verified through primary techniques, and we source secondary data only from highly accurate sources like LinkedIn. So again, our process for building and verifying contact information is very research-centric, which allows us to maintain a very high level of accuracy as per what our customers tell us.
Okay.
I think, does that answer the question, John?
I think it does. I think it does. So thank you. We do have one more, probably best fielded for you as well, Chantal. How often would you say a sales team formally refresh and reassess things like battle cards and market intelligence and things useful for prospecting teams?
Right. I think for customer-facing sales representatives, there are two kinds of refresh. One is either we normally recommend a refresh per quarter. If the nature of the industry is such that information updates frequently, we can also update battle cards and competitive intelligence once every 2 months. However, once a quarter is generally a good strategy, unless you're in a technology space where there are a lot of updates, product upgrades. If your competitors are continually updating and upgrading their solutions for their customers, in that case, you might even want to do that once in every 2 months. But our recommendation is a refresh every quarter.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chantal. I've got a couple here we've probably got some time for. These are more for you, Lindsay. You mentioned that it takes 8 to 12 touch points to connect with a prospect. How many do you usually see quota-carrying reps make?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that quota-carrying reps typically are making really anywhere just between 2 to 3 and before kind of giving up or sort of letting that account fall by the wayside. And I've seen more times than not a sales development rep will be on their 4th touch point, reaching out to a prospect over the course of a couple of weeks to find out the prospect will answer the phone and they will in fact be interested and we're able to qualify the lead. So it's certainly important to move beyond those 2 to 3 that quota-carrying reps are focused on. I've also seen when the sales development teams are putting in that right amount of effort and those right amount of touches, a 12% increase from prospect to sales qualified lead. So it's certainly a metric to be aware of.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And one more I think we've got time for. How many contacts per account do you usually prospect? How many contacts per account do you usually prospect?
So this will certainly depend on the scope of the account and the type of product or solution you're selling. So if you're calling into a Fortune 500 organization selling enterprise software that requires a very broad decision-making team, I encourage my reps to reach out to really anywhere between 6 and 8 contacts to make sure they've completely mapped the account and they're getting to the answer as quickly and efficiently as possible. Certainly if the product or solution that you're selling is a bit more transactional and requires maybe just 1 or 2 contacts to confirm that there's an interest, and it's a smaller size account, I would say as long as you have 2, you're probably in good shape.
Okay. So thanks for that. That answers the questions. I think that's pretty much all we have time for. There are a couple more, but we will make sure that we get them answered via email. So thanks everyone for attending. I hope this was valuable, and if there are any additional questions that arise after this, then please don't hesitate to